Hi, Paula. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Darren. Can you
Yes, I can see you. I can hear you. Is your day going fine?
Great. Okay, good. We're connected.
We are
Yeah.
connected. I appreciate your time and cutting straight into it. American Quilt is the new record, just a few weeks old in terms of release. But when did you actually finish it?
I finished it in October of 2020. I guess it's finished when it's mastered. That's to me when the album's finished. Because you can really make changes right up into mastering. So yeah, October. It was pretty quick turnaround. It's going great. Yeah.
Did you give it to BMG Renew Records before it came out, or did you just go, here's the album, put it out?
um, I guess there's a little bit of a story there. So I was making, I've been independent for, I think, 7 albums. I
Yeah.
think approximately that. And it's been wonderful because I can be more prolific and just do it. And I've really enjoyed that. But a woman named Kate Hyman who worked with
Oh,
me
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
He's great. Well, Woodstock legend, Kate
a
Hyman.
Woodstock legend, a Woodstock legend. And she signed me to my very first deal.
Yeah.
Along with Henry Rollins and Amy Mann and
Yeah.
me on Imago. She was trying to contact me through Facebook. So we finally connected, and she's with this BMG company called Renew that is specifically Americana roots, and they license. So it was perfectly okay for me to keep my label because the album was made and I was about to get it mastered. And I thought, okay, am I ready to do this? Am I ready to work with a label again? It's not quite the same. I'm not a work for hire. I'm just licensing my album. So it was fine. And we had to, get our lawyers and do all that stuff. And then I proceeded. And I forgot your question.
Well, when artists are early into their career and they're working with a big company, they have to give the album, and then the label is going to go, maybe you change the reverse order on that, and this is the single. And then somebody like yourself who's sold millions of albums, done the major label thing, done the Grammy thing, I would assume is in a position to go, here's the album, take it or leave it, rather than going, hey, what do you think are the hits on this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm actually very curious as to what people think. Because if you just make it for yourself, I don't make it for myself. I guess I have my high standards, but I'm always collaborative with musicians and with the engineers. And yes, now that there's a label, I'm always curious to hear what people's thoughts are for feedback. So I'm not in a vacuum. That I think that would be disastrous to be that like autocratic, But I'm an old hand at this now. I'm an old pro at this now, and I know how to do this. I know how to make albums. I've always been kind of independent that way and enjoyed self-production. So it's a nice way to be collaborative. I have my space and my autonomy, and yet I have a support system when I need it. So far so good, and I get my master's back in 7 years, if not.
Well put. I just find that very interesting when the person gets to call their own shots, because I can only imagine the A&R hell that you had been put through. You go from every song is written by 100% Paula Cole to looking at track listings and going, why is she being forced to use so many outside collaborators? Usually that's the A&R department trying to find problems that don't exist. Was that one of the reasons why you were happy to leave the major world, that it's back to the songs the way you want them?
That's an interesting observation. There's really only one album where there are so many co-writes, and that's Courage. That was the album that kind of took me out of a very long hiatus, nearly 8-year hiatus from the music business. And I was just very lacking in self-confidence, I think. That's why I called it Courage, because it was my little mantra, to get back up on the horse. And I needed the music and I needed to be in the world again to kind of find my strength. Um, And it was elucidating and informative and educational to be working with other people. Like it definitely expanded me. And I was just open. And that album was produced by somebody else, by Bobby Colomby, who's a beautiful producer in his own right. And I learned a lot from him. And I needed to be in a kind of a more soft and collaborative place to do that. So I don't look on that as regret. I look on that as learning, expansiveness in a way. However, when I listen to it, I really do connect most with the songs that were really 100% mine, like El Greco. I think there is a co-writer on that, but he just added kind of a little interlude musical section, whereas really the body of the song is my song, especially the lyrics. Like when they're coming from personal autobiographical places, that's really me, you know. So I love doing it myself. I guess I'm an introvert and I always have been. Like I'm sitting right now in front of my piano, like this is my process, right? So and every once in a while I need to be nudged out of that safety, I think, right? So I don't look at it as bad, but it's just what I do. That's my workflow.
Well, this is a new album. Granted, it's songs other people did and your take on them, but you did have a new album in 2019, aside from the Marvin Gaye cover, which is fantastic, holds up, speaks to the COVID era, to say the least, even though it predated COVID. No writer's block, I would assume, these days. That wasn't the, hey, I'm going to do covers for album because I don't have songs ready. I would assume you do have songs ready.
You know, I was not prolific during the COVID pandemic. I'm talking about it like it's past tense. It's still happening in the world, but I'm vaccinated and my family's safe, thank God. So it's like largely over and I'm poised to tour in the fall. So, you know, onward and upward. And I only wrote one song all of 2020, and that was Hidden in Plain Sight. And well, I did have some other ideas that I didn't, you know, follow through with, which I could go back to. But that song made American Quilt. It's the only original song on American Quilt. And I wrote that because I felt there was a vacancy in the sequencing of the album. And this is what I mean by like, the album isn't done till you go to mastering, because this has happened to me a few times where I'm listening to the sequence and I just feel like something's missing. So I write into that void or that vacancy as to what I feel like the whole of the album needs. So it's often there's like a last minute addition, and it's usually a good last minute addition. So yeah, I need a homework assignment. So the mastering date looming, like,
okay,
forces me to get it all together. So I wrote one song, which I think really rounded out American Quilt the way it needed to be. And that song was about slave quilts, so that the concept of a quilt in our American history would include the dark side of American history, which is all about slavery. So slave quilts were these amazing and ingenious inventions by slaves to give clues for those other slaves to read them in order to escape and make their way to the Underground Railroad. So each square, and these squares, these patterns still exist today, you know, like Bear Trail or Flying Geese, they still exist in the quilting world. And it was women's work, so of course it was dismissed, right? So it was perfect revolutionary material.
Right.
And so I wrote a song about them with each verse representing a patchwork square. So each square takes you through the journey of escaping to the Underground Railroad to Canada, you know. And I felt like that helped the album to represent all that we are and to talk about the difficult stuff. But I'm finally overcoming some of that fallow season. I call it a fallow season. I think John Lennon kind of referred to it like the writing process like that too. And I love John Lennon so much, and he's inspired me so much, especially as a writer. Like being brave and not being too harsh on yourself when you do feel that block, like to allow life, to allow a fallow season. So the field just needed to go fallow. And I'm finding myself writing now, like right now. And it's so exciting. Like that's my favorite part. That's my favorite part out of all that I do is the writing and recording the basics with the band in the studio. Like the touring less so, definitely, and the promoting even less so. Right. But I was inspired to write because I wanted to write either a duet or a trio. Like I haven't written specifically for that, and I'd like to see how that goes. So I'm excited. I'm in a song right now.
That actually was, you answered partially to the next things that I wanted to know about, which is that you've long-term used Jay and Kevin in your band. You go all the way back to Berkeley, if I've done my research correctly. But when I speak to singer-songwriters, people who are really calling the shots in terms of it's their name, it's their songs, it's their face out there and all that, I find that there's two camps when it comes to making a record. And the first one is the person knows this is exactly what I want the album to sound like. This is the vibe. And then the other one that I often find is the singer-songwriter who goes, this is the album I want to make. They go into the studio, they cut 2 songs, they go, this is not it. 180, different kind of album. You seem like the kind that knows the album that they want to make before they've started day one of tracking.
I mean, I guess that's one thing about me is that I don't consider myself like a master of anything. I'm kind of like good at many things, not necessarily brilliant at any one thing. Like there's definitely better singers than me, and there's definitely like better writers than me, and definitely better entrepreneurs, definitely better piano players. But I'm pretty good at all of those things, and I put them together, and then I try to work hard where I feel like I need work. So, and one thing that's part of that, like constellation of like you need skill sets, multiple skill sets, is like having an overarching view, like the eagle perspective from above. And that, I guess that's the producer, right? The self-producer. So that I've had that going in. And sometimes she's been wrong, sometimes she's been wrong, and I'm humbled about that. But yeah, I do have a strong sense, and I'm very loyal, and I love my musicians. I've always loved them, and I've always championed them. I was championing Jay and Kevin before they became legends in their own right in this business, and I was being pressured, by Imago, not my first label, not to use these musicians who now have gone on to be legends. So
right.
we entered the business together, and I fought for them, and I lost some battles. Like there were some other musicians that tried to get into the business. It didn't happen so easily. Anyway, I often write for Jay. Like I'm thinking of him and his playing in my mind. There have been a couple surprises. There have been times where I did start my album and it was not going the way I wanted it to. And so I pulled it and started again. But yeah, I do have like an overarching kind of sensibility of things. The boss lady, right? I mean, like even on tour, I kind of have to be a little bit of the leader. I don't know why. That's a role for me. I've been a leader, I guess. I was class president in high school. I don't know. It just works that way. And the way I think one should lead is by caring so much for the other in your group. It's like you're almost like in the military. You're in the trenches together. That you will take the hit. You will take no pay on that tour. You will take the worst bunk, right? You will take the hit for your bandmates, because often it's the person who does not want to be the leader that makes the best leader.
Oh, that's deep right there. That might be a song. Right there. So bring it back to American Quilt. Around how many covers did you pare it down to before getting to this track listing?
Wait, how many songs did I have before I pared it down? Well, I was circulating 14, 15, but I decided to take one of them and shorten it and make it as an intro to Hidden in Plain Sight. There's this gospel song called Steal Away. And it's a traditional song. Like, it's been in American culture for, I don't know, definitely 100 years. Steal Away to Jesus, but also Steal Away to Canada. These gospel songs were hidden, codes for, they were protest songs and hidden codes for escaping to the Underground Railroad. So I decided to like shorten it, make it an a cappella intro to Hidden in Plain Sight. And then I still had 4 outliers, and I was trying to make them work. And I just felt like, no, chop, chop, chop. So they're still out there and they're mixed and mastered. And I don't know if I'll ever use them. We'll see.
We'll see. When I first saw Steal Away on the track listing before I read the press release, I said, oh, wow, the Robbie Dupree yacht rock song, Steal Away, cool. And then like, okay, this one is still great in its own right. The opposite of a gospel traditional right there.
Oh, I don't even know the artist you just mentioned. So I heard Mahalia Jackson do it. So that's what knocked me out.
For sure. Well, do you have time for a couple more questions and then you're okay. First one is, you're one of those artists who has the right influences. Like, for example, when we look at your early credits and like she sang with Peter Gabriel and worked with Peter Gabriel and he sang on this Fire album. Okay, she's cred. But did you ever have a metal phase?
Metal.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's probably an artist within metal that I like. And that's because, but I never like have considered myself any one thing, except maybe a jazz singer at one point, because that's where I was first gigging. My first gig was a jazz gig.
Oh.
And I put myself like through college singing jazz in jazz clubs and jazz lounges, like airport lounges and stuff. Oh my gosh. But let's see, like, I guess Gabriel is considered in that prog movement, right?
He is in the tolerable way, where they're actually songs as opposed to 12-minute songs with flute solos.
Right.
Okay, well, hey, no pressure to be a metalhead, Paul.
Well, I see you're wearing a Cheap Trick t-shirt, so I do feel a little pressure.
Oh, hey, if you just like one thing, you're pretty limited, and I'm not limited. So
I like all music. So like literally I was interviewed by like the Bluegrass Situation, and they're like, do you like bluegrass? I'm like, I like music. I'm sure like right now I could think of, that Emmylou Harris Roses in the Snow album or Alison Krauss, but it's like, I love music and I don't want to separate it. I don't want to delineate it and classify it and make it different from other music. I understand that people want to do that to feel a sense of tribe.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm such a musician who was raised by a musician who would literally play like Duke Ellington on the piano and then polka gigs on the weekend and then country songs on the guitar and old folk songs on banjo. Like I grew up thinking it was all possible and it's all a stew, a beautiful cauldron that is American music. And that's why I made American Quilt, was precisely to like break down the barriers and put the different genres together in a patchwork. So there's probably, metal is probably low on the representation, but it's like, I'm sure there's some overlap somewhere. We could find it.
I was saying there's a 15% chance that you were going to go. Are you kidding me? I grew up on Van Halen 1984, but not the point here. Next question I have. I would say 1 out of every 10 people I interviewed turned out to have gone to Berkeley, and everybody dropped out of Berkeley. If they, like, it's a correlating thing. If they made it, they dropped out of Berkeley. That's usually the case. I'm curious if you had any other peers in your time at Berkeley that we might know. For example, were you there when Abe Laboriel Jr. was there?
Yes, I was there when Abe Laboriel Jr. was there, and I met Jay Belrose and Kevin Barry there. Diana Krall kind of came in and out really stealthily when I was there. But you know who I did know from Berkeley and who was just so wonderful was Susan Tedeschi. Like
I didn't know she went to Berkeley.
Oh yeah. Yeah, her family's from Massachusetts, I think, even.
Yeah.
And then she was just always like a kind heart and a hard worker and a good soul. Fantastic singer, talent. Yeah.
Were you there when Stacy Jones, the drummer for Veruca Salt and Letters to Cleo, was there?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't think so. That's
Oh,
not.
well.
Oh,
Oh,
also,
well.
I mean, of course, Layla Hathaway.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I mean, I was pretty close to her because we were in a lot of the same things. We were exactly in the same class, and we would always get chosen like as the little star singers. And I was always just in awe of her gift. Just beautiful.
Still
Yeah.
am. I've had the pleasure of interviewing her and Susan, and I didn't bring that up to either of them. So guess I got to tape another one. And my final question for you is there a TV recommendation that you could pass on for someone who needs a new show to start?
Oh, well, it's depressing as shit, but I think The Handmaid's Tale is like the most important thing on television right now. Like, let's just make feminists out of everybody, please. Like, there's that. I think that was amazing. My gosh. I mean, there's a lot of good TV on right now.
Yeah.
So shoot, nothing else is coming to me right now, but I've enjoyed so much. Sorry, my mind is drawing a blank, and yet I'm really addicted to the stuff, like good quality. Oh, The Crown.
Okay.
Oh, The Crown. So I'd have to think on it some more. I have to get
No,
back.
you just gave me a couple picks. That more than suffices. Well, the
Okay.
bottom line is congrats on your new album, and hope to see you live in New York when things are fully opened up again, which sounds like it's any day now.
Yes, I'm going to play City Winery, New York City on September 10th.
Okay. Well, I will tag them in the social media around this, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Just keep up the
you.
great work, Paula.
Thank you. Rock on. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Paltrocast.